Rise. In today's video, we're covering the new zombie cards, well, new to me, which came out during the course of my hiatus. I thought that these cards were really cool, and in fact, since I saw these cards, there's nothing else I've really been able to pick up because I ended up opening Pandora's box with this, and I've changed the build various times. So I'm going to start here by reading the new field spell, Delta of Invitation. It reads, when this card is activated, you can send one level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. You can only use each of the following effects of Delta once per turn. If a zombie monster is on the field, you can special summon one Delta token zombie dark level 5, attack 0, defense 0, and if a monsters is added from the graveyard to the hand while this card is in the graveyard except during the damage step, you can add it to your hand. You can only activate one Delta per turn, so that is kind of a downside to the card. The cool thing though is, because it's a token generator, it can get you into some really nice plays. As you'll see momentarily, we also have a zombie hand trap, which is pretty important to note. I'll bring up all the interactions that you can do as the combo goes on, but we're going to continue here by sending the Scar of the Vendread to the graveyard off of the field spell so that we can get ourselves a search for the Ravenous Vendread, which will then allow us to really kickstart our plays here, as because we'll have a token through the field spell, because we now have Vendread Slayer on board, which is a zombie, we can now turn it into a Link Spider, and this is kind of where all the craziness starts. You can go into the Close Moon, which will get you into the Fiendsmith package, and now you can use the Vendread Slayer effect, and of course if they do nib you on the Battle Lord coming up, then it just means that you can go into your Dia Bellstar plays without much worry, but assuming that they don't have nib and they have to use a hand trap or not have anything at all on the Battle Lord, then you'll be able to stop them from using monster effects for the rest of the turn, and unless they have Imperm, you'll be able to play freely here. Now that our Requiem can't get hit by Ash, we're going to do just that, as we're now going to bring out the Lacrima, use the effect of Lacrima, send the Fiendsmith, as we'll then be able to go into our copy of Masquerena, I believe here. Yeah, as we want to get the Battle Lord effect, and then we're going to end up adding a copy of Slayer, as well as send ourselves a Vendread Core to the graveyard. Vendread Core is a pretty important card to the deck because of its ability to banish cards from the graveyard. I feel like one thing that these zombie cards that we got entire typing is that it changes the potential of a whole graveyard strategy into this Spanish type of play, which is really nice because it plays around Bestials and you don't have to worry about all the graveyard hate in general in today's game when you're able to play around it through your own deck banishing stuff. But we're now going to be able to bring out our core, as we'll then use the effect of the Engraver itself out, as we're then going to go into the sequence. I almost called it Sequentia, it's been so long, but we're now going to use the effect of the sequence, as we'll be able to go into our Desiree, and from here we can now even play through Imperm before we go into our whole Diabell package, which is really nice, as we're going to equip the Fiendsmith sequence to it, as we're then going to use the effect of Diabell here, sending the field spell. And the reason that we're sending the field spell is because later on we'll be able to get it back, as we're now going to get ourselves the Azamina, or the Sinful Spoils Deception, and then we'll be able to use the Sinful Spoils Deception. We can tribute off away the Slayer because we can revive it anyways later on, but we're now going to be able to get our Hollowed Azamina, activate the Hollowed Azamina, as we'll then be able to reveal the Murcielago. From here we'll be able to bring out the Murcielago, as we'll be able to then get its search effect, which will give us the Wanted. And the really cool thing here is that because Wanted can add to the hand from the deck or graveyard, it actually works with the field spell, meaning that now we can link away into our SP, use the effect of the Hollowed Azamina in order to get it back so that we can go into our Sylvia so that we have that Omni negation, as we're going to chain the Wanted to the Hollowed Azamina so that we can add it back to our hand, bring out the Sylvia, and then on a new chain link we'll be able to activate the field spell in the graveyard to get it back into hand. So not only does this hand show a way to play around hand traps, but it kind of shows big of a board you can build with this deck, the ability to get hand traps and stuff like that. You also have that draw one from the Wanted, and there's various types of hand combinations that you can get with this deck, seeing as it is 60 cards. That said, I'll take you on to the next combo because I really want to talk about the rest of the new cards. So in this second one, I wanted to show off Dark Necromancer specifically because this is a crazy card for not just zombies but Vendread as well, and it reads, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send one fiend or zombie ritual monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. Then you can add one ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Keep in mind, this is a potentially crazy card for something like Burning Abyss 2 or any other fiend deck that can take advantage of being able to send a ritual monster to the graveyard, and and then add a ritual spell. Unfortunately, we don't have anything good yet, but when we do, Fiend and Zombie can actually be a pretty cool combination, seeing as that is the whole Bakura theme from back in the day. But if this card is banished, you can target one of your banished level 4 or lower Fiend or Zombie monsters, special summon it. You can only use each effect of Dark Necromancer once per turn. So you'll see again we have Witch, as we also have the pre-prep, which is essentially a second Dark Necromancer in case your Dark Necromancer gets impermed, as you can then just add the materials anyways, which is just really nice. That said, you won't be able to get Ravenous Vendread, you will get the Origin, but usually you have enough gas to kind of just push through that, and getting the Revendread Slayer to the graveyard after ritual summoning it can get you even more advantage. So we're going to start here by using the effect of the Dark Necromancer, then use the effect of the Ravenous Vendread, as we'll be able to bring out the Scar from our deck in order to ritual summon out the Slayer. And then from here we can go into Close Moon, as we'll then do the same thing that we did before, where we're going to go for the Battle Lord with the Origin. And from here we can then use the effect of Origin in order to bring out the Battle Lord. We'll use the effect of the Battle Lord in order to banish the Ravenous so that we can call monsters and kind of just block Ash. And if your opponent doesn't nib here, then you block that too. But we're going to then go into the Requiem, use the effect of Requiem, as now our opponent can no longer use Ash, and then bring out the Lacrima. From here we'll then use the effect of Lacrima, send the Engraver, as we'll then be able to go into our IP, use the effect of Battle Lord, which will then get ourselves the Slayer along with sending the Core. From here we'll then be able to use the effect of Core, banishing the Dark Necromancer, and this is really cool because the Dark Necromancer now revives itself with its own effect. So we'll then be able to use the effect of the Engraver so that we have access into our Fiendsmith sequence. From here we can use the effect of Sequence, which will give us the ability to go into Desiree, and now we can use the effect of the Diabell Star using the Sequence to equip itself to the Desiree. As we're going to pitch the pre-prep, once you use the effect of Dark Necromancer, the pre-prep really becomes unnecessary because you kind of just run through your whole engine, as we're then going to be able to set ourselves the Deception. From here we'll then activate the Deception, use its effect in order to tribute off the Dark Necromancer, get ourselves the Hollowed Azamina. From here we can activate it, as we'll then be able to reveal the Murcielago, as we'll then be able to special summon out the Murcielago or Fusion Summon, whatever it is, as we'll then be able to search ourselves the Wanted. Now from here we'll then be able to go into our sequence, or the IP Masquerena. After searching Wanted, we'll be able to go into our SP Little Knight, as we'll then be able to use the effect of the Hollowed Azamina in order to get access into our Sylvia once we add it back to the hand, in the Wanted to the Hollowed Azamina, so that we can get that extra search, as we can also get the extra draw, which is really nice. But we're then going to be able to bring out the Sylvia for that Omni negation, activate the field spell, use the effect in order to send the Golden Lord. And this is another really cool interaction that the deck has, where you can send the Golden Lord to the graveyard, then use the Golden Lord effect in order to send the field to the graveyard, add the Golden Lord back to hand, special summon it or not, doesn't matter, but because Golden Lord was added while the field spell was in the graveyard, you can get it back, as we're going to do just that. And from here we'll then be able to special summon out the Golden Lord, bring back the field spell to our hand. We'll then use the effect of the Wanted, as this will give us that extra draw. That will wrap up the turn. Now I want to show how this deck plays when you don't have anything else in your hand, or if you're just relying on a 1-2 card combo. You're going to see a few of those with the new cards, as we're going to send the Slayer, get ourselves the Ravenous Vendread, use the effect. You've probably seen this before with our last one, but we're going to get the Slayer, have access into a Link 2 now, which means that we can use the Slayer effect in order to get ourselves the Battle Lord into the graveyard alongside the Origin. And don't worry, that's not the only thing that you'll be seeing in this entire video. There's more than that, but we'll now be able to bring out the Battle Lord, use its effect in order to stop our opponent from potentially using hand traps on us, and then go into the Requiem. We can then use the effect of the Requiem, out our Lacrima. Lacrima again will send the Engraver. Here we'll be able to use the two monsters on the field in order to go into Sequentia. We'll then be able to use the effect of the Battle Lord in the graveyard in order to get the Slayer along with the Core in the graveyard. And now we'll use the effect of Core, banishing the Dark Necromancer so that we can get that extra body on the field, which means that we can still go into IP Masquerena, use the effect of the Engraver, as we'll then be able to bring it back out. And from here we can go into our IP, leave the extra monster on board just so that we can link away with IP on our opponent's turn, as we're now going to use the effect of Sequence to go into the Desiree. From there we can use the effect of Sequence to equip it onto Desiree so that we can get those negations. And with that, I'll take you on to the next combo. I want to show another option that you have with Dark Necromancer, as there are some variations that you can do depending on how hard you want to play into certain hand traps, or really it depends on what type of end board you want to make as well, because as shown, you do get access to a lot of bodies when you're doing this, so I felt being a little bit more thorough with how I showed this is the better approach, as we're now going to be able to out the Slayer, do a lot of the same stuff that we've been doing. We're going to use the effect of the Slayer, get ourselves the Battle Lord into the graveyard along with the Origin in hand. We'll summon out the Battle Lord, as we'll be able to bring back the the Dark Necromancer off of its own effect, since we banished it this time around, or the Battle Lord Origin, which is something that we didn't do in the previous ones. And again, it plays harder into Nib, but for whatever reason, if you know that you don't have to worry about it, you have this line of play that you can take. Now, we're going to use the Battle Lord's effect into our Requiem, use the effect of Requiem, bring out the Lacrima, use the effect of the Lacrima, as this will be able to get the Engraver in the graveyard, use the effect of the Requiem this time around so that we can get access into the Necroquip, use the effect of the Engraver so that we can get ourselves the rank 6 access for the Caesar. Now we'll be able to link away into the IP, use the effect of the Battle Lord, which will end up getting ourselves the Slayer in hand, along with Anima in the graveyard. And Anima's pretty cool here because Anima just gives you access to another body, and this time, instead of reviving a core, which would be a low stat monster, you do have a 2300 beater that your opponent can't attack over freely, though there is the IP that they can always attack over. At that point, you just kind of use it though. With that, I'll take you on to the next combo, just because there's still more that you can do with just the Dark Necromancer. For this next combo, I wanted to show off what happens when you have another new card, the Curse of the Ancient Turtle, and I think that this card is awesome just because of everything that it represents. This entire card game, knowing what Pyramid Turtle was back in GOAT, and knowing it just comes back as the Curse of the Ancient Turtle, I think that's just awesome. But banish one zombie monster from your hand or graveyard, send one zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. When your zombie monster is destroyed by battle, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one zombie monster with 2000 or less defense from your deck, so that Pyramid Turtle effect can only use each effect of Curse of the Ancient Turtle once per turn. Now, the point of this entire combo is what happens if you can't normal summon the Dark Necromancer, or don't want to normal summon it for whatever reason. And we're going to start here by activating the Curse of the Ancient Turtle, as we're going to banish the Dark Necromancer, sending the Anima, use the effect of the Dark Necromancer, which will then be able to revive itself, and that means that you cannot use the banish effect, which is kind of why I want to show what you do if you don't want to normal summon it, whatever reason, is we're now going to be able to get ourselves the Ravenous Vendread, activate the Ravenous Vendread. This will give us access to the Slayer, so that we have those two zombies on board, along with the Slayer effect in the graveyard that will trigger once we go into the Closed Moon, or whatever it's called. Get ourselves the Origin, sending the Battle Lord, as we'll then be able to activate the Origin, and bring back the Slayer, or the Battle Lord, I'm sorry, as we'll then be able to use its effect so that we can play around hand traps. And from here, we'll then go into the Requiem again, use its effect, which will then allow us to go into the Lacrima, use the Lacrima, probably stuff that you guys are tired of, but still kind of new to me, which is kind of cool. But we'll then go into the IP Masquerena, use the effect of the Battle Lord, which will get us the Slayer, along with sending the core. We can use the effect of the Engraver in order to revive it. We'll then use the effect of the core in order to bring itself back, and then go into our Sequence, use the effect of Sequence, and just something as mentioned before that I really like about this is that once you call the Battle Lord effect in order to stop monsters, if you do get that Desiree out before your opponent uses Imperm for whatever reason, maybe they didn't use it on Sequence, not knowing what was coming and you still having cards in your hand and whatnot, just something really cool overall. A lot of the times also, I would like to point out, people might hold their Imperm for the Desiree, and then you end up using your Diabell stuff after, not knowing that you were going to have an Omni Negate added to your board. So I think that that's really cool. But we're going to now use the effect of the Sequence in order to equip it, as we'll use the effect of Anima to bring back the Slayer. Here we can then pass our turn. For the penultimate combo, I want to talk about drawing your Vendread cards, because there are going to be hands where you may see a bunch of going second cards and like a ritual spell or a ritual monster. That is a downside to playing not just Vendreads, but really a ritual deck, and any type of ritual deck that doesn't have effects from the hand. That said, there are still cards in your deck that can make the entire thing go if you do draw those pieces. The first one is Delta of Invitation with the Vendread Slayer. I'm going to use the effect Sending the Scar, and this will give us the ability to get the Ravenous Vendread. Here we can then use the Ravenous Vendread in order to bring out the Scar so that we can ritual summon out the Vendread Slayer. Now, because we have that zombie monster on board, we have access into the token from the field spell. So this means that we can now go into the Link Spider and get access to the Closed Moon so that we can have Battle Lord to stop our opponent from using a hand trap on the Fiendsmith engine, which just off of being able to draw the field spell with Slayer, I think is really nice. We're now going to use the effect of the Origin in order to bring back the Battle Lord. Use the effect of the Battle Lord, banish the Ravenous. Now we can go into our Requiem. Again, bunch of stuff that you've seen here before, as we're going to bring out the Lacrima, use the effect of Lacrima. We'll send the Engraver, go into our sequence. From here we can use the effect of Battle Lord, ourselves the Slayer, as we'll send away the core. We'll use the effect of the Engraver, bringing itself out, as we'll use the effect of core now, banishing the Battle Lord itself out so that we can go into the IP Masquerena, use the effect of sequence so that we can get ourselves the Desiree, and I think that's what we're going to end our board with. We're going to use the effect of sequence, of course. The downside here is that IP doesn't have a body next to it. If your opponent were to imperm Desiree or something, you're still able to potentially get the graveyard effect off of it for an extra disruption. I just think that's a really cool factor that this deck has. You can start off with Field Spell, which really doesn't do too much on its own, and coupled with a Ritual Monster, which you wouldn't think do much with the Ritual Spell, giving you at least enough, especially if you have 3 hand traps attached to it. For the final combo, we have the Dark Necromancer and the Origin, and as stated, I wanted to show what happens if you do draw your quote-unquote bad cards. We're now going to use the effect of the Dark Necromancer sending the Slayer to get ourselves the Ravenous Vendread, and from here we'll use the effect of the Ravenous Vendread in order to bring out the Scar. So we'll then bring out the Slayer, use the 2 monsters on field in order to go into the closed, use the effect of the Slayer in order to get our second copy of the Revendread Origin. You'll see we're on 2 of them. We're going to send the Battle Lord again. We'll use the effect of Origin in order to bring back the Battle Lord so that we can play around potential hand traps. We are going to bring out the Dark Necromancer at this time, and at this point, already summoned 5 times, so if you fall into Nib, you fall into Nib. You will have the Battle Lord effect to help you push through depending on what your hand is, but we're going to go into the Requiem, use the effect of Requiem, as it'll bring out the Lacrima. From here we can use the effect of Lacrima. We'll send the Engraver, use the effect of the Requiem so that we can get access to the Necroquip, bring back the Engraver, just get that out of the way. Chance to get hit by Nib anymore since we did use the Battle Lord. So we're going to go into our Caesar. We're then going to link away into the IP Masquerena, use the effect of Battle Lord, which will get ourselves the Revendread Slayer, sending the Anima. We can then activate the Revendread Origin, as this will give us the ability to shoot off the added Slayer to bring back the Slayer. And now we can use the Anima in order to get back our Scar, and this is another really cool thing that you can do, because we have 2 level 6 zombies, and it doesn't really matter typing they are, but we are going to go into the Wallow here. You can go into another link to zombie if you would like to, since we are out into zombie typing because of the Anima, just to show that you can go for a second rank 6 with the IP Masquerena, and I thought that was really cool. Before I get into the deck profile of everything that you just saw, I wanted to go over the concepts of the plan, and you'll see that it all started with a 60 card build that I threw together when I first found out about the new zombie cards. I kind of just wanted to see how they went with zombies in general. When I really started to notice all this stuff worked with banishing, me want to try Necroface, Lure, especially since we were already playing the left arm offering, able to triple tactics thrust onto the Ancient Turtle, or even the Soul Release, which is a really cool target as well that would get your plays going, actually banish some of your opponent's engine. Nice and all. It's just the problem I saw when you're playing a regular zombie deck, Horus, Punk, or the Diabel engine like I showed before. It means that you don't have ways to really play around hand traps too well. You have to depend on drawing all gas. You're forced into playing less going second cards. There's other stuff that I feel could potentially work really well in the deck eventually, but we don't have cards for it yet like these 3. The day that Ghost Fusion becomes easily accessible is the day that this deck probably takes off, in my opinion, just because you have the ability to use the field spell. Imagine sending a level 5 or higher that would lose you life points along with adding Wyvern or the Ghost Sleeper, or even just sending the Ghost Sleeper, whatever it is, to get your Ghost Fusion. Point is that because stuck with a lot of older cards for the zombie archetype, for the zombie typing, it means that you're going to be seeing a lot of normal summons as well, things that don't really do anything in the hand, and that's ultimately why I chose to make this a Vendread video over a zombie video. Said I still wanted to show this off because I thought that how the futures of zombies is shaping up with all of these new cards. You'll see Flying Mary here as well, another link too that takes 2 zombies. You can target one of your level 5 or higher zombie monsters that is banished or in your graveyard, card in your spell and trap zone as a face-up continuous spell, and if you do, special summon this monster. This card is a continuous spell. You can target one level 5 or higher zombie monster you control, destroy one monster your opponent controls with less attack equal to that monster. Only use each effect of Flying Mary once per turn, and I just love that name, the Going Mary, Flying Mary. But the Fascinator, there's more zombie stuff that you can put into the extra deck as well. I didn't want to do that. I felt that playing 60 cards, just in general, I like going for more generic options instead because they cover situations. I thought Cheng Ying, if you're playing the Unizombie, is really nice as well, especially because the token that you get from the Delta of Invitation is level 5. So if you discard something off the Unizombie and then send something else, that becomes level 5 as well. The Omega and the Immortal Dragon are other options. I was saying before, with all this banishing stuff, I do feel like there is a direction Konami can take in order to make this stuff better. Until that time comes, I just think it's better to stick with the Vendread cards. Before I get into the Diabell build, I did want to show off a build with the 40 cards, in case you're on a budget and don't want to spend on the Diabell package, especially knowing that it can get hit at any minute. Now, I will say that this build is significantly worse than this 60 card build, just because we're playing a lot of bricks with the Vendread stuff, and having the ability to play all the extra going second cards that you're able to in the 60 card version makes it more fluid in how you can approach different matchups, especially with how diverse these pie charts are. As seen previously, along with Necromancer, we have the 3 pre-prep, and having that along with the field spell is really what makes this deck go. Having the Gold Sark in order to banish the Dark Necromancer, summon it out, effectively being like a Rhoda so that you can get into your Slayer engine or the Vendread stuff, be nice. One copy of the Curse of the Ancient Turtle. This could maybe be something else in the 40 card build. I think in the 60 card build where you're actually able to play the Thrust. In fact, I'll pull that up now. The 60 card build where you can play Thrust, a lot of this stuff makes more sense in my opinion, where you have the Curse of the Ancient Turtle and the Soul Release at 1 that you can search off it. There's also the pre-prep, which is searchable, the Terraforming, the Gold Sark, the 1-for-1, which we play as well because we have the ability to play the full Vendread package. Roll is also a level 1, which is nice. But you'll see that we have a lot of going second cards in this build. The ability to have a multitude of just traps between the drawing stuff that you get from the Charmies that give you the ability to draw into your pre-preps, your Dark Necromancers that otherwise wouldn't be searchable unless you have something like Thrust, which can get you the pre-prep or whatever. Even then, that's just the advantage that something like this has over the 40 card deck. And that's not even mentioning the Diabell package, which gives you a better end board, gives you that draw, gives you a way to play around more cards because you can just use the Diabell at the end or in the beginning, depending on what your hand looks like. Also notice that there's no grass, zombie world, and stuff like that. Again, I don't think until we have a dedicated zombie build to more of the banish stuff and we're not using other engines like zombies usually are, we should be going for grass because the decks feel flimsier. And again, this is a heavy going second format. I see lists with 16 up to 20 hand traps at times. I kind of just wanted to follow that trend with this build. Anyways, I'm going to start naming the cards here. The 3 deltas, the 1 terraforming, the 1 gold sark, the 1-for-1, the 3 dark necromancer, the 1 copy of Magna Hut, the 1 copy of the Druid Worm, copy of the Golden Lord, called by Crossout Talents, the 3 Charmy Perilia, the 3 Charmy, I don't know how to say this. I have the Fiendsmith package with the Engraver, the Lacrima, the copy of the Curse of the Ancient Turtle, Anima. We then have Core, Scar, the 3 copies of Pre-Prep. We then have the 3 Diabels, the 1 copy of Battlelord, the 2 copies of Slayer, the 1 copy of Ravenous, the 2 copies of Origin, the 3 copies of Ash, the 3 copies of Mourner. Again, very important that these are zombie because they synergize with the field spell, able to normal summon one of them and then get that token so that you can get into your Fiendsmith package can really unbrick some of your hands. Assuming your opponent doesn't have anything to stop it, of course, though. But then we have the 3 copies of Wanted, the 1 copy of Deception, the 1 copy of the Hollow. We then have the 1 copy of the Soul Release, the 3 copies of Thrust. We then have the 3 copies of Droll, the 3 copies of Imperm, and then finally onto the extra deck we have Unicorn, Close Moon. We then have the 1 SP and IP, Dark. We then have Sequence, Requiem, Link Spider, Almirage, which again, if you happen to draw your Necromancer and that gets impermed, if you're able to link it away into the Almirage and somehow banish it from the graveyard, it'd be something like Curse of the Ancient Turtle or using the Vendread Origin in order to bring out the Slayer or whatever. Having the ability to potentially get into your closed Moon and the Fiendsmith package because of Almirage is really nice. Then have the DDD Wave High King Caesar along with the Wallow, just your rank 6s. We then have the 1 Desiree, the Necroquip, the 1 copy of Murcielago, along with the Sylvia to wrap up the deck profile. Anyways, if you guys made it this far into the video, I thank you so much for watching. And I'm going to look for what I can do for the next video. I have no idea where I want to go from here. Is a ton of stuff has come out since, so I know that I have my work cut out for me. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great one. It's Bones, signing out.